Well, welcome back, Adventure Seekers. Thanks for joining the Journey Church Online. In this episode, you're going to get to take a look at some of this stunning scenery here in Eastern Oregon, like this valley behind me. Be sure to stick around for the end of this video. You're going to see something very few people ever get to see in person. Wild horses roaming here high in the mountains of Eastern Oregon. Absolutely gorgeous. You do not want to miss this. Sit back, relax, get ready to learn. Let's go. Well, today we're not far from the 45th parallel. It's this imaginary line around the Earth that marks the halfway point between the equator and the North Pole. And ever since we crossed that 45th parallel, we have been gaining altitude, climbing up as we head north through some beautiful mountains in Eastern Oregon. They're covered with these gorgeous pine trees and grasses and flowers that you see around us. We crossed over the Grand Ronde River as it kind of snuck out here and there. And eventually we've made our way all the way up to this overlook here at Deadman's Pass, somewhere near 4,000 feet above sea level. And this sort of marks the turning point where the landscape begins to change as we continue on north towards Pendleton, Oregon, and into the Columbia Basin in the scene below. And we'll show you more of that as we get going. It is gorgeous. Well, this is episode 7 in our series through the Beatitudes, and today we're taking a look at what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. He says this, "God blesses those who work for peace, for they will see God." In other translations, it says, "Blessed are the peacemakers," but I really like the plain English way it's stated in the NLT version. God blesses those who work for peace. Gives us this idea right away that Jesus is pointing out that God is looking to bless people who are willing to work for peace. I don't know if you caught that, right? Work for it. Peace rarely comes by accident. Well, to some people, when they think of peace, they picture a place like this. It's just gorgeous. You can hear the birds singing in the background. We were just visited by a cool little hummingbird. You got these gorgeous flowers, wildflowers growing all around us. And to just sit back on a hillside like this and soak up the smells and the sounds and the sights, it is really what somebody might dream of when they dream of peace. For other people, when they think of peace, they may dream of pulling their hammock out and stretching it out between two trees on the side of a bubbling river with the sounds of water in the background, the cool breeze on their face, and to just sit and relax, maybe even with a book or just take a nap there in nature. Other people may think about peace and they may think, man, peace to me would be a quiet dinner table with my family all gathered around and no bickering and no arguing and people just being kind to each other. That would be a wonderful picture of peace. And I think everybody has an idea of what peace looks like and a picture that they really desire when they think about peace. The question is, if it's something that's so desirable and all of us long for it in these different ways, how do we actually attain it? And what does it look like to pursue peace? How do we be a peacemaker the way that Jesus says God will bless those who work for peace? Let's jump back in the truck, head down the road, and see what we can't learn about making peace alongside the road in Deadman's Pass. In the ancient Jewish tradition, and certainly in Jesus' perspective, peace was valued more than truth. The rabbis would make the case that if there was a situation in which truth and peace were in conflict with each other, peace should take precedence. Maybe that's because the Hebrew word for peace is shalom. And shalom means to be totally unified with God and others. I don't know if you caught that. Shalom is the word for peace, and it means to be completely in sync with God and in sync with other people. No conflict between you and God, and no conflict between you and anybody else. That's the picture that Jesus is looking for. That's what peace looks like, and that's what he's pointing to when he said that God blesses the people who work for peace. For Jesus, it was far more important for you to be unified with God and others than it was for you to just be right. I've heard this idea stated like this: you're more important. Nothing like filming in the middle of the road. Kids, don't do this at home. I've heard this idea of peace being more important than being right, stated more like this. Maybe if somebody said, "You're more important than my view." And it's really almost a completely foreign concept to people these days. The idea that you could be totally at peace with somebody that you actually don't agree with. I may think something completely different than they do. I might even have a different political view, or totally disagree with them on something big like abortion, or is the Bible accurate, or was Jesus even real? Here's the thing. The truth is, you could believe very different things, but still pursue peace. Unfortunately, the divided world that we live in today wants you to believe that you can only be at peace with people who look like you, who think like you, or act like you. And this, my friends, is a complete lie from the king of division himself, from Satan. And because of this, I think many of us get this turned around, and we put our need to be right ahead of other people and ahead of pursuing peace. You get in a situation with someone and you know that they're wrong. What they believe is wrong. What they said was wrong. And you know the truth. How far are you willing to go to make them hear the truth? To prove that you're right and that they're wrong? Do you even pause to consider the cost? Or do you just charge ahead in order to be right? Jesus taught that those who follow God should love peace and pursue it. They should love their neighbors and attract others to the truth and attract others to the scriptures with their love. As a Christian, how do we walk the fine line between pursuing peace while still deeply caring about the truth? Admittedly, this takes some practice. Paul wrote to a church in Ephesus, and he offered them some coaching on this very thing. In Ephesians 4, he urged them to live a life worthy of their calling, to be humble and gentle, to be patient with each other, giving each other grace and patience when they mess up or say something that's not true because of your love for them. And he's not telling them that truth doesn't matter, but he is telling them that shalom, or peace, matters more. He goes on to tell them that with practice, they'll get better at it. He says that they're going to come to a spot with time and maturity that they're not going to act so much like immature kids that get baited into every argument or suckered into trying to prove everyone wrong. And he encouraged them that with practice, they're going to get better at being humble. They're going to get better at being patient, and it's going to come more natural to be slow to speak and to remember to start from a place of loving the other person. And over time, he told them that they're going to actually develop the ability to speak truth in love, becoming more and more like Jesus as they do. Probably every Christian and maybe every person has heard the phrase, speak the truth in love. The problem is a lot of Christians want to skip right to that and start there. But I think it's really important that we remember what Paul explained, that this is a skill that comes over time. Long before you get to speaking the truth in love, he advises you to focus on being humble and gentle and patient and giving grace for the mistakes or mess ups of other people. We're up here at Deadman's Pass. We brought you up here because this is a great place to help you get a picture of the approach to pursuing peace that Jesus had in mind when he said that God blesses those who pursue peace. As you get closer to the edge of the forest, coming towards this hill, you start to see the horizon open up ahead of you, and it's pretty easy to see that the bottom is a long ways down. In fact, as you get closer, you start to see all these ominous warning signs that are really trying to get your attention. Hey, you, yes, you, right? These big yellow signs on the side of the road. You're about to go down a massive hill, and it's steep and long and curvy and dangerous, and you should probably slow down and pay attention. But what if you just ignored the signs and threw caution to the wind and said, hey, who cares about that? I just want to get to the bottom as fast as I can to just see what's down there, right? So here you are at the top of the hill and you recklessly just mash the gas pedal and go full send down this epic grade. I can tell you for sure, being up here and having come up and down it, probably not the best choice a person could make. Here's the thing though, it looks a lot like the way most Christians want to just dive in and get to the part where they speak the truth, where they get to prove their point or to be right. But rarely will this result in peace. It's honestly a reckless approach to pursuing peace. So if going full send for the truth is a bad idea, then what's a better approach? Well, for that, we just have to go back to Paul's coaching to that church in Ephesus. It shows up in Ephesians chapter 4. And he's painting a picture there for these Christians that long before they're mature enough to speak the truth in love, they need to grow some other muscles. It's kind of like Paul is riding with them down this big grade, and they keep looking over and asking him, are we ready yet? Can we just punch it and get to the truth as fast as we can? I mean, can we drift the corners? Can we just go for it? But he cautions them, and he warns them to slow down and pull over on the side of the road and take a look at some other things first. Well, long before we get down to the bottom of this giant hill, I want you to pause here with me and remember how important it is to be humble and gentle. You may know the truth, but shoving it down people's throats is never a good idea. Instead, focus on growing your humble and gentle muscles. So maybe there's a conflict that comes your way, right? A problem between you and your spouse, or an issue with you at work, or a problem with a teacher or a coach. Pick your problem, pick your conflict. Probably everybody can think of a few right off the top of your head. Now, remember what Jesus says. God blesses those who work for peace. Not the ones who prove their point or argue, but the ones who work for peace. And Paul says the first muscles to work on when it comes to being a person who can work towards peace are the ones that help us be humble and gentle. So before you jump back in your car and try to get moving towards the truth and the part where you get to prove your point, remember, like what Paul would say with you, to kind of maybe pause and take an off ramp and actually think through what it would be like for you to be humble and gentle in the situation you're in. All right, we got this stop down. Let's get back on the road and see if we can keep making our way down to the bottom. All right, you did it. You paused once and you practiced being humble and gentle. And then you jumped back in the truck and got all excited to get, in a hurry to get to the spot where you can speak the truth in love, right? To get to the bottom of the hill. But here's the thing. Paul would caution you to just hang tight. Don't get so fast. Don't get ahead of yourself. It's time for another pause before you race towards the truth. And that's why we stopped here at this amazing thing. We're in this area where the Oregon Trail came through, and these are not Oregon Trail ruts right here behind me, but it's likely the route that the trail would have taken up and over this epic pass. And it is a pretty amazing place to stop and tell you about the next reason you need to pause, according to Paul, before you get to in a hurry to speak the truth. So here we are. And if you're anything like me, this may be about the time that you're running low on patience. This whole process, does it really have to take so long? It's kind of ironic because that's exactly what Paul points out next in the second half of Ephesians 4:2. He says, be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. In other words, you're still not ready to jump to the truth part. It's not time yet to talk about being right. What it is time for is patience and giving lots of grace for each other's faults. When you stop trying to prove that you're right, show them, the truth that you know, it's a lot easier to realize that you both have flaws, you both make mistakes. And when you come to that realization, it's like there's room to remember that you actually love this other person, that you care about this other person. They're not so different than you after all. So it may seem like you're ready for the more serious business of pointing people to the truth, showing them what's wrong with the way they think or what they've done. But Paul has one more important warning for us. In Ephesians 4:4, he says, make every effort to keep yourselves united in the Spirit, binding yourselves together with peace. All right, admittedly, that one sounds like a little bit of a riddle, so let's try and break it down in plain English. Paul is saying, yes, speaking the truth in love does matter, but it's not the right place to start. First, be humble and gentle. Then, be patient and extend grace. And then, make every effort to stick together because you know that there is a God, and you know that He's a good God, and you know that He wants you to pursue peace. So, be committed to peace. Now, remember, peace is being right with God and right with the other person. It's like you're saying to the other person, no matter how our talk goes, I want you to know right up front that I am committed to being totally square with you, to be at peace with you. And that is actually way more important to me than figuring out what the perfect truth is in our situation. That is what Paul calls being committed to peace, and trusting the Spirit of God to help you stay glued together in that peace as you work through your stuff. Well, after you take some time to grow these muscles, to be humble and gentle and patient and extend grace and to be committed to peace, now you're finally ready to speak the truth in love. And if you'll do these things, I think you'll find that the truth that you were so excited to share, the point you wanted to prove so badly in the beginning, doesn't seem that important anymore. What you found instead is something far greater than being right. You found peace. You could find peace even with a person that you may not agree with. Peace with a person that may vote differently than you. Peace with a person that may behave differently than you do. And trust me, being at true peace with these people is going to yield far greater opportunities to share the gospel and discuss what Jesus teaches than just racing down the hill at full speed ahead, trying to show them how right you are. Hey, this week, be somebody that pursues peace, who's willing to work for it. We're going to wrap this episode up and leave you with some amazing scenery here from Eastern Oregon, looking down into the Columbia Basin below us here, and who knows what'll show up when we go scour this place with the drone. We'll see you next week as we wrap this series up from wherever we are out there. So we were shooting for an episode earlier today and met a guy driving a giant Tonka truck. We'll see if we can put some pictures of it in here. It was amazing. Literally made by Tonka. It was in one of the Transformers movies and been in a bunch of shows and stuff. He told us all kinds of stuff about the area and gave us some intel on where to find some wild Mustangs here in Eastern Oregon, up in the high, kind of the high line above the Columbia Basin. And so we think we found some. So we're gonna do a little scouting, sneak up in here a little bit quiet, and see if we can't give you guys a little treat of something special not a lot of people get to see.
When I was lost and hopeless, when I was at my worst, it's grace that you extended that I did not deserve. I am so amazed by all you have done. I cannot explain the depth of your love. Limits can't contain the heart of you, God. I'm amazed at the depth of your love. Your mercy came and found me, gave me a second birth. I'm overwhelmed and grateful. You took what I deserve.